puts up a three. And a goal!
Rolling into another Bearcat Blitz right here on the Believe Network. We are presented by Bet Online. I'm your host, Russ Eltman. He's my co-host, Neil Meyer. I want to tell you all about Bet Online. It's your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. UFC 303 coming up in just a few days. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games on the site. Head there today to get in on the action and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. Plenty to get to on this show. We have a new commit for the Bearcats, and he recently committed without a ranking, but he got a ranking on 24/7 Sports in the past few days. We'll discuss Jeremiah Kelly to start the show. We'll get into the NIL Summit Award that Cincinnati's NIL department picked up over the weekend, the Institutional Award at the NIL Summit. And we'll get into David DeJulius' new home. He is elevating in the European basketball ranks, making a switch to a Greek league team over across the ponds. All that coming up. But first, a message from our great sponsors, and we'll bring in Neil for the rest of the show. Stay tuned after these messages right here on Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online. Neil, Cincinnati, you and I, me specifically, I was kind of highlighting over the past week or two, past 10 days, how the football class of 2025, it's coming together, but we haven't seen, and I know the staff would have agreed with me, we didn't have enough in the fold in terms of looking at this group. We hadn't seen enough big fellas join the fold, and we've had a few join the commitment ranks in the past week or so, in the past couple of weeks, and most fresh is Jeremiah Kelly, 6'3", 300-pound interior offensive lineman from Avon, Ohio. Only other offer is from Akron, so he's a guy flying a little bit more under the radar in this class, but commits over the weekend and earns a 3-star 85 overall rating from 24/7 Sports. He's the 120th ranked player at his position, 71st nationally, and he checks in just above Terrell Holcomb. Those two guys, the lowest rated recruits on the commitment list right now. But Neil, an important 3-star offensive line commit at that. Another instance where it just goes to show they're going to have to develop these guys, and it's going to be on Nick Cardwell to be the kind of magician behind the scenes to take these classes from 3-star level talents coming into mid 4-star, high level, very strong starters in the Big 12 moving forward. And that's largely going to fall on the shoulders of Nick Cardwell. It seems like develop, find early talent, and then give it to Nick Cardwell is the plan with this staff, and how they're going to protect their quarterback and how they're going to run the football.
Yeah, and Russ, obviously, as you mentioned, this is a guy who's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Only offer was from Akron. He camped at Cincinnati on Tuesday, if I recall right, based on the social media post. Commits to Cincinnati on Friday. So very big commitment, 6'3", 300 pounds. But what Russ, he played both sides of the ball before shifting strictly to the offensive line the final 4 games of the season. And he is former teammates with Cincinnati true freshman Jacorian Kafee, the running back out of Avon High School as well. So they get the opportunity to reunite at the college level. But I was actually able to sit down, Russ, with Jeremiah Kelly moments after his commitment, where I asked him about what led to his decision to commit to Cincinnati. And he said the first thing that really stood out was the love from the city, and that he really loved the city as a person. And he said the coaching staff was amazing and how they treated him and his family while he was here on campus. And he said, what really made me want to jump in and commit to Cincinnati after receiving my offer was how fast the other commits contacted me and made me feel like I was at home, and they instantly wanted me to join the Bearcat family. So overall, Russ, if you're hearing that from these recruits right now, we're seeing it from a guy in true freshman Jaquan Sanks right now on the social media aspect. He's doing his own recruiting out there, it feels like, Russ. I mean, these commits, these guys, they're bought into what Scott Satterfield and this staff is doing right here in Clifton, despite the record from last season. That says a lot about what is going up right now in Clifton with this recruiting class. But, Russ, another big thing to mention about Jeremiah Kelly, he used to be a wrestler, still wrestles a little bit. So another dynamic, talented multi-sport athlete. And Russ, you and I have seen it for many years. Ethan Green's a big emphasis on when we talk about this topic. Wrestlers and offensive linemen. Look at what they were been able to do. Ethan Green had a fantastic spring ball, in my opinion, based on what we saw, Russ, but could be a guy that really could be a good key depth piece there on the offensive line as well. But wrestlers and offensive linemen, Russ, sitting 6'3", 300 pounds right now as a senior and heading into his senior year. Probably will put on a little bit more muscle as well, but you get him one summer there with Coach Nico, you'll probably be looking at a guard position. Obviously, if we had to imagine, Russ, one of the two interior guard positions just based on the size, 6'3". But yeah. I really like this commit, Russ. Despite him having just the two offers between Akron and Cincinnati, I really like this. And it could be another potential diamond in the rough where recruiting didn't really play a factor his junior season. He goes and has a great summer camps at these schools. And we have seen Coach Cardwell be able to develop and really build great relationships with these young offensive linemen. So I'm really excited for a guy like Jeremiah Kelly here as the 15th member of the 2025 recruiting class. And Russ, if I recall right, you and I did kind of tease on the last episode that recruits were going to start coming. We might see some action there in the recruiting aspect for football, and it was shortly after we filmed the announcement came.
Oh, yeah. 15 commits so far. I'd imagine we got probably 4 to 5 more still in the offings here over the next couple weeks, heading into probably the next month, actually, heading into mid to late July. That's when things really start to slow down. You're getting in the camp higher ground. You're getting into the high school camps at that point. Guys are kind of just have already made their decisions by that point for the most part. But Neil, 15 commits right now. Cincinnati sitting at 42nd nationally on 24/7 Sports overall team rankings. I think that's a pretty solid spot to be at. That's kind of where you have to, I think, meet the low bar. The low bar is the mid 40s, and I think the high bar expectations for this class, not necessarily, but for the entrenched, if Scott Satterfield is going to be a 10-year tenure here kind of head coach with that kind of success, 5 years in, you'd expect those classes to be in the mid 30s to low 30s, given what they're working with and just the area that they can pull from in this 300-mile wide radius. But the big fellas are starting to flow in a little bit, and they have Samuel Page in the fold right now at offensive tackle. They have added Benny Patterson on the defensive line. They have Jeremiah Kelly, as we mentioned, on the interior offensive line. They've added Jahari Medlock as a tackle candidate as well at 6'6", 278 pounds. So the big fella's starting to roll in. We'll see if some more big fellas can roll in over the next few weeks as well. Jaden Clark, a big name I'm looking at, Neil. Will they be able to lock down that commit with Jaden Clark? He has had a ton of smoke surrounding his just interest with Cincinnati. 883rd overall ranked player nationally, 56th best interior offensive lineman. To compare that, Jeremiah Kelly is 120th ranked offensive lineman interiorly. Getting Jaden Clark nailed down as a high-level 3-star candidate would be huge, Neil, for this team and this kind of 2025 recruiting class. Jaden Clark, a big name to watch over the next couple of weeks, was scheduled to commit on July 4th or July 5th, I believe, and then a couple days ago pulled that date for a commitment. So who knows what's going on with Clark. We'll see if he ends up committing in the next couple of weeks or so, but still some big names, especially on the offensive line, that Cincinnati is going after. Speaking of big names, Neil, the NIL department for Cincinnati made a big name for themselves this past weekend. On Saturday night, they were named the best institutional program at the 3rd annual NIL Summit. And a quote here from Eddie Taylor, Assistant Director of NIL and Innovation at Cincinnati. And they said, Impact, Cincinnati's NIL development program, is dedicated to equipping athletes with the education and resources they need to forge their own unique brands. Our athletes chose to develop their brands put themselves out there, achieving excellence in the process. This award truly belongs to our student athletes, which sent the UC sent football players Evan Prater and Jalen Hunt, along with Hampton Gucky, a swimming and diving athlete, and Gabby Gunther, a tennis player at the university as well. And this award, Neil, recognizes the college or institution that has shown exceptional commitment to supporting its student athletes and maximizing their NIL opportunities through a combination of education, resources, and industry-leading innovation. Just goes to show, Neil, that the UC may not have the biggest war chest of NIL funds to throw at players right now, but the award says speaks for itself. They may not have the biggest war chest, but to maximize your likeness profitability, to maximize your brand, the NIL Summit has spoken, and nobody does it better than UC.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, let's give a shout out to Eddie Taylor, because what he is doing, Russ, I know you're not a big Instagram guy, but I follow him on Instagram, and he is in his lab with student athletes every day, all day, every day, just working with these student athletes one-on-one, finding these opportunities for the NIL for them and helping them build the brand. And he has done a great job since coming here. I think he's only been here, Russ, a year and a half, and look what he's doing with the NIL department. So it's fantastic to see them go down and get that award. But Russ, what was even better, I know you're not a big Instagram guy, but they were posting all kind of content throughout the week leading up to it, getting down there with all the student athletes. But Eddie Taylor, give a round of applause for what he's been here. Like I said, he's only been here about a year and a half, but this is huge for the University of Cincinnati, because without Eddie and Chad Allen, this is going to be something that's not easy to really bring home this prestigious award. But to go down to Atlanta and be named the best institution for NIL, best institutional program at the 3rd annual NIL Summit. Just think about that, Russ. NIL's only been out there legal for 3 years. And to come home and you top fellow finalists of Florida, Grand Canyon, Nebraska, Ohio State, Ole Miss, St. Joseph, and UCLA for the best institution program. And the previous 2 winners, Russ, 2023, Michigan State, 2022, Boise State. So you got to give a huge shout out to what the athletic department is doing and the NIL department is doing. But man, Eddie Taylor is doing a fantastic job. And if you guys don't follow him on social media, I would highly recommend to get that up close and personal aspect of the work he is doing with the Cincinnati student athletes to help them build their brand and really kind of build their brand for what comes after college. So he's doing a great job, and you have to give him his flowers for what the job he is doing at UC.
All about the people, the relationships, and especially, like we mentioned, when you don't have those giant access to funds, guys like Eddie Taylor become even more important. Just his acumen, his touch, his ability to connect with these athletes and help guide them along the correct NIL path. And it's obviously proven to be a strong start to Eddie Taylor and his tenure here with Cincinnati, already picking up an institutional program award. What'd you say, Neil? 18 months into his tenure. So very impressive.
Yeah, roughly 18 months. If I recall right, I might be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain he came right.
It can't be much longer than 18 months, considering how young NIL is.
and let's give a huge props to Russ. I think Eddie's about our age, maybe 1 or 2 years older than us.
Yeah, he's a young
very
guy.
Young, very smart and intellectual person as well. So he's got some big things planned for the NIL department for Cincinnati for sure.
Love it. Take a quick break and get to something else we love. David DeJulius with another contract in the professional basketball ranks right here on Bearcat Blitz. David DeJulius, probably the best Cincinnati basketball player to suit up for the school this decade, and he has gone from the German side of things to the Greek side of things. Got his start with it's so hard for me to say the name, Göttingen, last year in the German league, and now he is headed to play for the Aris basketball club in Greece in the Greek Super League. They've won 10 league titles in their history going back to 1922, so a storied franchise that DeJulius is heading over to. He posted 13.6 points and 5.1 assists in Germany last season, Neil, and now get to a team in Aris, BC that you can actually compete for Europa League titles for continental Europe titles. It's another way for David DeJulius to showcase his skills, and it's not a massive commitment that he's tying himself to in Greece. Just 1-year deal, another chance for DeJulius to showcase his skills. And I'm interested to see, Neil. Obviously, it may be too long of a timeline for DeJulius to get a look in the league or get an eventual look in the G League once they do expand the NBA to 32 teams. Is happening. It's going to happen by the end of this decade. Hopefully, David DeJulius still bounced around by then. But once we get 2 more teams in the NBA, Neil, we should get some more Bearcats opportunities in the league, especially a guy like Landers Nolly, who is just on the outside of getting a look at the league. He is putting up good numbers in the G League, but not historic numbers. And that's kind of what you have to do to get a consistent look in the NBA playing in the G League. It's just so competitive. There's never been more talent in the sport of basketball than there is right now. There's never been more talent. There's never been more of a need to expand the NBA to 2 more teams and 32 overall. Hopefully DDJ gets his chance here stateside eventually once that all happens, Neil. But in the meantime, I'm sure he's still making good money, and he's getting to live in Greece for a year, which is pretty cool. Another new experience for David.
Yeah, and Russ, I mean, talk about it. He finished with 13-5 last season, something he did very well at Cincinnati throughout his collegiate career.
That's what he did at UC. He just got to carry it over the numbers.
That at UC. And I mean, Russ, I think when his senior year, if I recall right, maybe I know it was double digits. I think it was maybe 12 games with 7 or more assists. And there was one stretch where Wes Miller even pointed it out. He goes, guys, David DeJulius has had 7 or more assists in about 8 straight games at one point, it felt like. And that's the kind of player he is, man. And put on up 13.6 and 5 in your first professional season is pretty crazy numbers to think about it over there in Germany. But Russ, now he gets a new opportunity in Greece, some of the highly best competition over there in the Europe League as well. So I'm very excited for David DeJulius. And I mean, guys, how can you not root for David DeJulius just because of the person he was? I mean, he's back in Cincinnati training, spent some time at Wes Miller's youth basketball camp. And from the pictures, Russ, it looked like he was pretty into coaching too, but he's got a long basketball playing career ahead of him. So hopefully we got something up our sleeve, maybe where we can set something up and have him explain this professional journey a little bit more in depth in the future.
Yeah, we're hoping to get David on while he's in town and able to make the timing work a little bit better in terms of the schedule stateside versus the schedule 6-7 hours ahead in Europe. But yeah, excited to have David on. We'll hopefully get him on the next few episodes. Look forward to that, everybody. And look forward. We're counting the days to Camp Higher Ground. A little less than 6 weeks away from the start of fall camp for Bearcats football, then basketball shortly after that. Almost to the most fun time of the year, fall in the Bearcat sports scene. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online, right here on the Believe Network.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.